In this video I'm gonna show you how I produced my Pioneer P. That is a Pioneer X minus the scissors and plus pliers instead. And to be able to put that together I need pliers from somewhere, and I decided after much thinking that I would just scrap or disassemble my deluxe tinker. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm removing the scales, and to do that without breaking the scales you could use hot water, and the scales come off really easy. And not surprisingly, the best tool to remove the scales is another Victorinox and the can opener. The can opener being very thin-edged and easy to get inside tight clearances, as you can see here. I never found another tool which was easier to do this with, and the can opener on the Victorinox is really a very useful tool in so many ways. So down to the lab again, and here the first thing to do is put some tape around the deluxe tinker so that it doesn't spring apart when I'm drilling it, and also for some protection, but mainly not just so it doesn't spring apart until all the rivets are drilled through. So the first thing is to find this suitable drill. I'm using metal drills here, and you want to have the correct size, not too big and not too small. And you don't want to hurt the rings which are locking the rivets in place. Those rings are really hard to come by, and you want to save them. And I managed to save all of them, which I'm quite happy about if I wanted to put 91mm back together someday. Here you can see a ring. So be careful with those, save them for later. And of course you need a small enough drill so that you don't hurt the edges of the drills inside the hole. So here you can see me drilling out the first end. It's quite easy actually, if you have the correct tools. Just put something underneath, like the glove there, so it doesn't slide around, and just push the drill slowly through. And then hammer it out. So now all of the rivets are out. 3 large ones and 1 small. And they all look like this basically. So when I open the tape now, it will all just spring apart. So here it is. This one needs to go into this one now, the 93mm Pioneer X. I will just swap the scissors for these pliers in this one. So that's the plan at least, and the rest of this is just trash now, or spare parts. I was going to clean them up and put them in the drawer here. A lot of nice parts actually, and a lot of different springs. So now starts the hard work of assembling this all together and fitting the new pliers into the 93mm frame. And there are a lot of parts, and I expected the springs to be really hard to work with, like the 58mm I've disassembled before. But this was actually much easier to work with than the smaller ones. As you can see here, I just found out that the hole in the pliers is a bit smaller. But I sort of expected this, since the rivets going through the 93mm are much thicker by their diameter than the ones in the 91mm, so the pliers need to be drilled out a bit. And I found out that was easier said than done. I started out with using metal drills here, and it all started smoking and glowing. So I added some oil to cool it down, and it works a bit for a while, but then suddenly the drill just exploded, and I had to figure out a new way to go about this, since the material was too hard. And as you can see here, I've gone over to a stone drill instead, which is much tougher, and that actually did the work quite fast. So remember that if you do this. And drilling, now it's drilled out, and you can see it fits perfectly, so that was easily done. And next step here is to see if I can fold it down into the handle. And as you can see here, it doesn't fold all the way, so something needs to be filed down. Comparing with the scissors, you can see that there's a piece of the handle sticking out that needs to go. So that's quite obvious what needs to be done, and I use a pen to mark where the filing needs to be performed. I filed down things before, and I know things turn really hot very fast, so I use a piece of sock here with water on it to cool the material down as I go, so it doesn't start glowing, because there is quite a lot of material that needs to be filed away. And I just go at this for a while and take it bit by bit, cooling it down, going over to the more coarse grinder since it was too slow. I can recommend soaking a piece of cloth in water doing this, and just cooling the piece down just every 5 seconds or so. You don't burn your hands, and you don't melt the material. So trying it out here, you can see that it's not all the way yet. Need to remove a piece more, but taking this step by step is better than removing too much too fast, I think, since there is no way of going back if you overdo it. So just marking out a bit more to remove. As you can see, it's very easy to put the tool back into the spring, and I can tell you it's not that easy working with a 58mm. You really need to put the 58mm spring with some sort of tool and have the whole handle locked up in some vise to be able to work with it. But the 93mm is much easier. Now the pliers fold in perfectly, but the nose, you can see here, it is stopped by the liners. There are actually 2 liners there, so I need to file them down as well a bit. And as you can see, I've done that here. And now the pliers fold in to the handle perfectly. And they fold in as flush as in the original Tinker. So I'm quite happy with that result, and there is still material to hold the rivet in place. But you need to add a couple of flat washers on the middle and top side of the handle to get an even spacing, since the spring of the scissors, which is used here to hold the pliers, is a bit thinner than the actual plier size or width. And adding those couple of washers may help it make it even. And as you can see here, I placed those 2 washers on the middle and far side, and I put them on top of the 2 liners, as you can see here. I obviously tried to put the spacers different places a lot of times, but this was the best result I got. And on the other side there is no need for spacers, since there is a small ring clip there which evens it out. Obviously you would want to have a thicker spring, and you could use a spring from the knife, but I didn't want to scrap another 93mm just to get a thicker spring, so I used the original scissor spring instead, and it worked out fine as well. But if you happen to have another spring from a 93mm main knife, you would of course use that one instead. Just trying all the tools here and see if they fold as they should. And that's very important, since if something is misaligned or put together wrong way, things won't fold up. And as you can see here, this is the Leatherman pocket clip, and I used a flat washer again to secure it, and I had to drill a small hole in the scales as well for the point there to have a groove to fit into, so that the pocket clip doesn't just spin around. And that's important, since you can't tighten the rivets too much, then your tools won't open. There always need to be some sort of movement allowed. So here you can see I cut off the rivet or the rod, and it's hard to get the correct length at once, so I'm just touching it up here. And then the last step is to hammer it down, and it's easier to do that if you just preheat the metal a bit. I'm using really tough brass rivets here. It's not the softest brass you can find, but it already has one side formed as a rivet head, so it was easy to use. But then I need to warm them up to be able to hammer them down, as you can see here. And I used the soldering gun I have, which goes up to 480 degrees centigrades. So just hammering down the rivet from that side, turning it around, and putting a piece of metal to protect the scales. The scales are of aluminum, and they have aluminum oxide on them, and the oxide can actually be burned away, and then you end up with a really ugly piece of scales, and you don't want that, so protect the scales when you do this. And just heat the rivet head. So now it should be close to 480 degrees, it's just a matter of hammering it out. I can tell you it's still a bit tough. If I did this again, I would probably just use softer brass rods, which you can buy off eBay and Amazon and such, and not use rivet heads of brass, since they seem to be much tougher. Going back and forth with a heat gun makes it harder to keep tape on the handles. It actually makes it impossible, so when hammering the head here, it's important to be careful so you don't hammer the scales, lest you will get hammered out scales, and that will be quite visible. Actually, I managed to hammer the scales set a couple of times, and I have a couple of marks now on the scales. So that also reinforces my conclusion that it would have been better to use softer brass rods instead of these preformed rivets I had. So testing that you can open and close the tools when you hammer in the rivets is really important, because if you over tighten the rivets it will be seized up, and you don't want a seized up tool, you want them to be snappy. So test by opening and closing the tools on all sides regularly, and go about this very slowly, and take your time basically, because drilling out the rivets is not that fun when you over tighten it. It happened to me once, I have to confess. I didn't put this into the video, but you've seen how it's done. So now it's actually done, and I think the result is very good to look at, and I got a really useful tool actually, which is including all the tools I ever wanted, and which also works very well together with the classic I always carry around my neck, since I have the small scissors there and also a nail file. Together with this Pioneer P, I have basically all the tools needed for a normal day. And that was also the idea behind putting the pliers into this 93mm Pioneer X, turning it into Pioneer P, was to co-carry it with a Nail-Lox Classic. And that tool set you get then is really complete, and sort of replaces the need to carry a deluxe tinker. So if you like the scales and the toughness and the thickness of the blade of the 93mm more than the 91mm, which is a bit more flimsy, this is the thing you need to do to get the pliers with you. Unless you want to carry the Knipex Cobra you see that lying there on the table. I've done that also. That's a good combination with the Pioneer actually. Just the Pioneer plus the Knipex Cobra plus the Classic. But there are always pros and cons of everything, and I think this combination of the Pioneer P and the Classic is what I like most right now, and what is for everyday carry. If you don't do stuff around your home too much, then I would probably just go over to the Cyber tool, which I carry at weekends basically, just to get the longer reach of the screwdriver and get the bits with you. So do you like the result and what you think of this assembly? Please like, share and subscribe, and put some comments into the comment section below. And hope you had fun watching this, and see you next time. Rakt igenom.